Hello, everyone. I'm Vince White. I'm an employment attorney, and it is here, September 10th. Tonight is the NFL season opener. Texans versus the Chiefs. It's a big deal, and someone sent us a question about it, an employment law question about the NFL. The question was: is it legal that the NFL players are being forced to play even though there's a pandemic going on? Let's unpack that one, because they're not. They're not being forced to play. They were allowed to opt out with minimal repercussions if they felt unsafe or didn't want to play for whatever reason. Now, let's assume that they actually were forced. Would that be legal? No, forcing someone to work is never legal. That's generally called either slavery or indentured servitude, and it is one of the worst practices mankind ever created. But I think what you were actually asking, was, is it legal if the NFL players were to be terminated, were to be fired, to have their contracts voided, if they decided not to play during a pandemic? Would that be legal? And as I mentioned, the NFL came up with an opt-out for those players who didn't want to play. But if they hadn't, if they just said you play or else your contract's done, would that be legal? Yeah, I mean, realistically speaking, it's not that big of a risk. Would it be safer if they were in a bubble? Should they have done what the NBA did? Yeah, probably. We watched baseball. Baseball's terrible. Baseball didn't do a bubble either, and they made it through their season, right? I mean, who knows? Baseball just goes on forever. Nothing ever happens. But they had their season. Certainly, without a bubble, they survived, right? In reality, I mean, these NFL players, it's a tough job, no question. The brain injuries, everything else, but it's not going to be as tough or as at risk for COVID exposure as, those people who worked in grocery stores and Targets and Walmarts through the entire pandemic that you kept going to through the entire pandemic. Those people are way more at risk, and you weren't all that worried about them. You just put up nice signs in your window, said, "Thank you, essential workers." Like, that really helped them to stay safe or keep their families safe or make money, right? So if you can make the grocery store workers and the Target workers and the Walmart workers and all the people I'm leaving out, if you can make them to show up to work and be at really high risk of infection during the worst of the pandemic in early 2020, yes, you can absolutely have professional athletes go to work in a heavily tested, heavily controlled environment with masking and everything else that you would need to be as safe as possible. That is entirely legal and realistic, and I don't think I need to remind you that it is a pandemic, it's scary, but it's also not the end of the world, and we have to keep living, right? You can't just stop the world because a percentage of us are getting ill and a smaller percentage of that percentage are very tragically dying. That is a very sad thing. It's very scary for all of us. It's not a reason to stop the world, right? I hope that answers your question. Good luck, and enjoy the game tonight. May the odds be forever in your favor.